Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, my dear brothers and sisters. Welcome to day 17 of Quran in a Year Plus, where we learn to look at the world and live life through the lens of the Quran. Today we're going to be looking at verses 164 to 173 of Surah Baqara. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار والفلك التي تجري في البحر بما ينفع الناس وما أنزل الله من ماء فأحيا به الأرض بعد موتها وبث فيها من كل دابة وتصريف الرياح والسحاب المسخر بين السماء والأرض لآيات لقوم يعقلون. The following are clear proofs of the oneness of Allah, the Almighty and Exalted. For those who comprehend and understand the evidence and proofs, the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the wonders of creation within them, the succession of night and day, the ships that sail through the waters of the seas carrying food, clothing, trade, and other things that people need and are useful, water that Allah sends down, bringing the earth to life with the agriculture and pasture that grows in it, the living creatures He spread out across the earth, the changing of the winds from one direction to another, and the clouds suspended between the sky and the earth. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَندَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ ولو يرى الذين ظلموا إذ يرون العذاب أن القوة لله جميعا وأن الله شديد العذاب. Even with these clear signs, some take other deities to worship besides Allah, making them out to be rivals to Allah the Exalted, loving them as they love Allah. However, the love of Allah within those who truly believe in Him is more than the love that these people have towards their falsely worshipped deities. This is because they do not worship others besides Allah. They love Him in times of ease and hardship. As for the others, they only love their false deities in times of ease, but in times of hardship, they don't call to anyone besides Allah. If the transgressors were to see their condition upon witnessing the punishment that awaits them in the afterlife, then they would know that the sole bearer of all power is Allah and that He is severe in punishing those who rebel against Him. If they were to see this, then they would not worship anyone besides Allah. إذ تبرأ الذين اتبعوا من الذين اتبعوا ورأوا العذاب وتقطعت بهم الأسباب. The leaders who were followed will disassociate themselves from their weak followers when they bear witness to the terrors and adversities of the Day of Judgment, and when all ties and means of escape will be cut off from them. وقال الذين اتبعوا لو أن لنا كرة فنتبرأ منهم كما تبرأوا منا كذلك يريهم الله أعمالهم حسرات عليهم وما هم بخارجين من النار. The weak and the followers will say, if only we could go back to the earth, we would disassociate ourselves from our leaders the way that they disassociated themselves from us. And just as Allah showed them the severe punishment in the afterlife, He will show them the consequence of following their leaders in falsehood, accompanied by regrets and sorrow, and they will never leave the fire. يا أيها الناس الناس كلوا مما في الأرض حلالا طيبا ولا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين. O people, eat from what is on the earth, from meat, vegetation, and trees, from what was lawfully earned, and from what is pure and not harmful. Do not follow the paths of the devil that he promotes. He is a clear enemy to you, harboring animosity. It is not allowed for any rational person to follow his enemy who is eager to harm and mislead him. إنما يأمركم بالسوء والفحشاء وأن تقولوا على الله ما لا تعلمون. The devil only commands you to do the worst sins and greatest offenses, inciting you to speak about Allah with regard to faith and sacred laws without knowledge that came to you from Allah or His messengers. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ اتَّبِعُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ قَالُوا بَلْ نَتَّبِعُ مَا أَلْفَيْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاءَنَا أَوَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ. If these disbelievers are told to follow the guidance and light which Allah revealed, they stubbornly respond and say, "No, we're going to follow the beliefs and traditions we found our forefathers upon." Are they going to follow them despite them being the ones who did not truly understand and did not follow the guidance? And the result of that is that they are not guided to the truth that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with. وَمَثَلُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا كَمَثَلِ الَّذِي يَنْعِقُ بِمَا لَا يَسْمَعُ إِلَّا دُعَاءً وَنِدَاءً صُمٌّ بُكْمٌ عُمْيٌ فَهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ. The example of those who disbelieve by following their forefathers is like the example of the shepherd who shouts, calling to his livestock. They hear his voice but don't understand what he says. They are therefore deaf to hearing the truth in a way that they can benefit from. Dumb as their tongues have become mute in speaking the truth and blind to seeing the truth as such. Because of this, they do not understand the guidance you call them toward. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كلوا من طيبات ما رزقناكم واشكروا لله إن كنتم إياه تعبدون. O you who believe in Allah and follow His Messenger, eat from the good things that Allah has provided and allowed for you to eat. And thank Allah outwardly and inwardly for the blessings He has graciously bestowed upon you. Part of being thankful to Him is to obey Him and avoid disobeying Him if you truly worship Him alone and do not associate any partners with Him. إنما حرم عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير وما أهل به لغير الله فمن اضطر غير باغ ولا عاد فلا إثم عليه إن الله غفور رحيم. Allah has only forbidden you from food which has died without being sacrificed in accordance with the sacred law, also from flowing blood, and from pork, and from that which had other than Allah's name mentioned over it when it was sacrificed. However, if someone is forced to eat something of these forbidden types of food, and he is not seeking to transgress by eating from it without dire need, and he does consume it over the bounds of necessity, then there is no sin upon him, nor will he be punished. For Allah is the most forgiving and most merciful to whoever repents to Him from his slaves, and it is from His mercy that He overlooks the eating of these forbidden things in times of dire need. There's a lot of powerful lessons in these verses. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verse, وَإِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ in Medina, that your Lord is only one true God, the people of Mecca, they said, how can one God be sufficient for everyone? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the next verse. Indeed, in the creation of the heavens and the earth and the succession of the night and the day until the end of the verse, it's signs for those individuals to recognize the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He is the ultimate being and the one who is deserving of that worship and submission and devotion and love. And reflecting over these signs leads one to understand the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We live in a postmodern society. What that pretty much means is that there's no such thing as objective truth. The truth is subjective, and morals are what you deem is good. And in a society like this that consistently doubts, we have to reflect and look at the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He is the truth, that the Quran is the truth, that Islam is the truth. But just like a person, to truly appreciate the blessings that they have in their life, from a worldly perspective, their senses has to be intact. They have to be able to see it, touch it, experience it. Then they see how blessed they are. The same way, for a person to experience the deeni benefits, the religious benefits, the senses, which is the heart, has to be sound as well, to be able to notice the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to recognize Him as their creator, to submit to Him, to love Him. And we see so much innovation in our times, and we're marveled by that, of what human beings are capable of. But then when we look at the creation of the universe, the earth, our own selves, are we not moved by that? Is that not indicative of a creator and how amazing He is? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, those who believe, their love is even stronger for Allah, because they know who He is. And love of Allah is of two degrees. The general love that every believer has, which is obligatory. But then there's a special love of the ones who truly know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the awliya, the true friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the highest station a person can hope to achieve. And love grows by knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through knowledge of Allah. And love has two main causes. The first is beauty and goodness, and the other is kindness and favors upon others. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Jamil, the most beautiful. And we see beauty in His creation, in His wisdom, in His radiant attributes that is perceived by insight. And His kindness is seen in His endless favors, both outward and inward. To believers, yes, but even to the disbelievers. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala treats everyone with goodness, provides for them, takes care of them, despite the fact that they reject Him and commit all sort of immoralities. And when that love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala settles in the heart, the signs of that show in eagerness to obey Him, finding joy in worship, longing for His nearness, contentment with His decree, enjoying that seclusion with Him, loving remembering Him, and preferring those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. And Allah tells us on Yawm al-Qiyamah, on the Day of Judgment, those individuals who were followed, who were the influencers and people took them as role models, they're going to disassociate themselves from them. And the ones who are following are going to hope that we had a chance. We would never have followed you. And we want to reflect over this as well. That am I following those individuals who are going to lead me closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or am I following individuals who are going to lead me away from Him? And Allah tells us, do not follow the pathways of shaitan, of the devil, because everything he calls us towards is the opposite of what Allah wants. To associating partners with Allah, to do things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not pleased with. And He tells us that He's a clear enemy. There's no doubt in that. Shaitan does not want good for us. He wants the opposite. He wants to lead us astray. He wants our destruction. He wants us to be with Him in the hellfire. And that's why building the relationship with the Quran is so important, because it gives us that anchor. It reframes our mind. It reminds us of our purpose and our final destination. And it also teaches us who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, that allows us to know Him and to fall in love with Him. So as we leave today's episode, we want to try to take some time, whether it's a few minutes, to reflect and contemplate over the creation, over the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to notice whether it's the night sky, the trees, your own heartbeat, to notice the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that develops certainty. In a doubting world that questions everything, that doubts everything, that thinks truth is subjective, we know that the truth is the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this gives us certainty in that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst the ones who are certain. May He protect us from the traps of shaitan. May He keep us firm upon His path. I'll see you tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.